The sky above the planet Carvath was a storm of gray and orange. The remnants of the dying sun, reflecting off the clouds of dust and ash. Once a vibrant world full of life, it now lay in ruins. Buildings were crumbled, smoke rose from shattered cities, and the air smelled of fire and ozone. The war had lasted for decades, pitting alien civilizations against each other and leaving humans only as distant observers until recently. Human soldier. Jack Reynolds had been sent to Carvath as part of a peacekeeping mission. He was tall, with short-cropped hair and eyes that carried the weariness of countless battles. But despite everything he had seen, nothing had prepared him for what he would find in the rubble of a destroyed village. The mission was simple: evacuate survivors and gather intelligence. Jack moved cautiously through the broken streets, rifle ready, scanning for movement. The silence was thick, broken only by the occasional groan of collapsing structures. A sudden noise made him stop. A soft whimper, almost like the sound of a child crying. He lowered his weapon slightly and followed the sound. In the corner of a destroyed building, partially hidden under a fallen beam, he saw her, a little girl. Not more than 7 years old, with wide, glimmering eyes that were a strange shade of green and blue, almost glowing in the dim light. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer, like mother of pearl. She looked at him with fear and curiosity, clutching a small piece of cloth to her chest. "Hey, it's okay," Jack said gently. His voice was calm, meant to comfort her. "I won't hurt you. Are you alone?" The girl didn't speak. She just shook slightly, staring at him. Jack noticed that her gaze was unusually sharp. It's almost as if she understood more than her small body suggested. "Come on," he said, carefully lifting the beam that blocked her path. "We need to get you out of here." She hesitated, then let him take her hand. Her fingers were small, delicate, and surprisingly warm. As he carried her, he could feel her staring at him, studying his every move. It was strange. He had rescued many people before, but never had he felt that someone so small could hold such awareness. The streets were dangerous. Patrol drones hovered in the distance, scanning for life forms. Jack kept his rifle ready, but noticed that the girl never made a sound, never panicked, even as debris fell around them. She seemed calm, almost knowing. He led her through narrow alleys and collapsed streets, ducking under broken beams and avoiding unstable structures. Occasionally, he would glance down at her. "You're very brave," he said. She only looked at him, her eyes reflecting something he couldn't understand. Hours passed, and the city grew quieter. The air smelled worse now, smoke mixed with something metallic, almost like burnt machinery. Jack finally reached a makeshift shelter where other survivors were gathered. Humans, aliens, and a few robotic assistants moved about, tending to the wounded and rationing supplies. "Here, you'll be safe," he said, setting the girl down gently. One of the local aliens, a tall creature with silver skin and multiple limbs, approached. "Who is she?" the alien asked in a soft voice. "She's alone," Jack replied. "I found her hiding under rubble." The alien studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Bring her here. We will make sure she has food and rest." The girl let go of Jack's hand, but didn't move far. She seemed cautious, yet somehow comfortable being near him. Jack watched as the alien caregivers tended to her. They offered her food and water, and she ate slowly, carefully, as if tasting flavors for the first time. Jack sat back, finally allowing himself a moment of relief. The mission had been a success. He had rescued a life, something that felt almost sacred in the midst of so much destruction. Yet, even as he relaxed, couldn't shake the feeling that this girl was different. Over the next few days, Jack stayed close to her. He had too. She seemed to attach herself to him, following him everywhere, watching him work. When he helped repair broken communication devices or tended to the wounded, she would quietly observe, her small hands occasionally reaching out to touch tools or screens. One evening, as the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, Jack found her tinkering with a small device he had been unable to repair. Her tiny fingers moved with precision he had never seen in a child. She pressed buttons, twisted wires, and within minutes the device blinked to life. Jack's eyes widened. How did you do that?" he asked. The girl looked up at him, tilting her head. She didn't answer in words. Instead, she smiled faintly. A knowing smile that sent a shiver down Jack's spine. "You're amazing," he said, trying to mask his unease. "But you're just a little girl," she didn't respond. She just returned to her work, fixing another small device. Jack realized that her intelligence, her skill, went far beyond her years, or perhaps even beyond her species. But he dismissed it for the moment, thinking she was just lucky or unusually clever. Over the following days, Jack and the girl, whom he had started calling Lyra, became inseparable. He kept her safe during patrols, made sure she ate, and even taught her a few basic words in his language. She repeated them quickly, with an accent that was strange but perfectly clear. One night, Jack sat by the fire in the shelter, staring at the stars above Karvath. Lyra climbed onto his lap, resting her small head against his chest. "Why are you here?" he asked softly, more to himself than to her. Her eyes met his. In them he saw a depth that no child should possess, wisdom, a history, and perhaps a destiny. Jack couldn't explain it, but he felt that rescuing her was no accident. Somehow, he knew that she was important, but he didn't know why. The next morning, the shelter was attacked. Enemy drones swooped down from the sky, firing beams of energy at anything that moved. Chaos erupted as humans and aliens scrambled for cover. Jack grabbed his rifle and shouted orders, trying to protect the shelter and the people inside. He turned to see Lyra standing calmly near the entrance, her small frame facing the drones without fear. Something inside her shifted an energy that Jack had never seen before. Without warning, she raised her hands, and the drones faltered. Sparks flew from their systems, and one by one, they crashed to the ground. Jack's mouth went dry. He ran to her side. "How? How did you do that?" he shouted over the noise. She looked at him, eyes calm, almost serene. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. In that moment, Jack realized that the little girl he had rescued was far more than she seemed. She wasn't just clever or brave, she was extraordinary. After the attack, the survivors gathered around, murmuring in awe. Some spoke of Lyra as if she were a miracle. Jack stayed by her side, still trying to process what he had seen. "Lyra, you're incredible," he whispered, kneeling down to her level. "I don't understand, but I promise I'll protect you no matter what." She smiled faintly again, resting her small hand on his arm. It was a silent acknowledgement, a bond forming between them that would shape the days to come. Jack didn't know what the future held. He didn't know why this child was so powerful, or what her presence meant for the war-torn planet and the galaxy beyond. But he knew one thing: rescuing Lyra was just the beginning. And whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. As night fell over the shattered city, Jack kept watch, rifle in hand, eyes scanning the darkened streets. Lyra slept quietly by his side, her small chest rising and falling, with a rhythm that seemed both human and otherworldly. In the silence of the ruined city, Jack made a silent promise to himself. No matter what secrets she held, no matter what dangers awaited, he would keep her safe. Because somewhere deep down, he knew that this little alien girl, this child with impossible abilities, was destined for something far greater than he could ever imagine, and he would be there, by her side, every step of the way. The morning sun rose over the ruins of Karvath, casting pale light across broken buildings and scorched streets. Jack Reynolds walked through the shelter, checking on the survivors. The attack last night had left everyone shaken, but miraculously, no one had died. Most of the credit went unspoken, yet Jack knew it was because of the little alien girl Lyra. He found her sitting quietly in a corner, her knees pulled to her chest, eyes scanning the horizon. Something about her gaze made Jack uneasy. It was sharp, almost like she could see the paths of the future. "Morning, Lyra," he said gently. "Sleep well." She nodded, her small hand brushing against a piece of wrecked machinery nearby. Jack noticed sparks of light flicker around her fingers. He froze for a moment, but Lyra only looked at him, unafraid, her calm expression unchanging. Jack shook his head. "You're incredible, you know that," he whispered more to himself. Over the next few days, the survivors worked together to rebuild their temporary shelter. Jack led patrols, repaired broken communication devices, and coordinated with alien allies. But everywhere he went, Lyra followed. She watched, learned, and occasionally reached out to fix something he had been struggling with. One afternoon, Jack was examining a broken hover vehicle, trying to restore its power. The wiring was complex, even for him, and the system kept shutting down. Lyra wandered over, her tiny hands hovering over the controls. Jack sighed, ready to push her aside, but she looked at him with her unusual, knowing eyes. "Go ahead, Lyra," he said. "See if you can help." She just touched the console. Wires glowed faintly under her fingers, circuits aligning in a way Jack hadn't imagined. Within moments, the hover vehicle hummed to life. Jack stepped back, blinking. "How? How did you do that?" he asked, stunned. She only smiled faintly and stepped back, as if she knew the answer wasn't meant to be spoken yet. Jack rubbed his face. He had saved her from the ruins. But now he realized that she was teaching him something, too, something far beyond his understanding. That night, Jack and Lyra sat together outside the shelter. The stars above Carvath were clear, shimmering like diamonds against the black sky. Jack handed her a piece of food, but she shook her head. She wasn't hungry. Instead, she gazed at the stars, her eyes reflecting constellations he didn't recognize. "You're different," he said quietly. "I've seen a lot in my life, Lyra, but I've never met anyone like you." She looked at him, and for the first time she spoke. Not in words, but in a voice inside his mind. "I'm not just a child, Jack. I am the last of my kind, my people. They trusted me to protect something very important." Jack's eyes widened. You can speak in my mind?" She nodded, her small hands touching his arm gently. "I can, but only with those I trust. You saved me. That is why I can speak to you now." Jack swallowed. His life had been about following orders, completing missions, and surviving battles. But nothing had prepared him for this. A child, or at least, child in appearance, was speaking to him in a way he could never have imagined. "You must understand, Jack," she continued, "there are forces here that want my people's knowledge. They will come for me. You have already seen their drones, their attacks. You have helped protect me, and I need you now more than ever." Jack nodded slowly. "I'll protect you, Lyra, no matter what. You don't have to face this alone." The following days proved that her warning was true. Enemy forces began moving across the landscape in patterns more strategic than before. Jack and the survivors noticed that attacks were more coordinated, faster, and more destructive. Humans and aliens alike struggled to keep up. Jack realized that Lyra's presence wasn't just important. It could be the key to turning the tide of the war. One evening, while scouting near the outskirts of the city, Jack and Lyra spotted enemy troops preparing to ambush their camp. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, and she pointed toward a cluster of trees. Instinctively, Jack understood. He led the survivors into a hidden path she had indicated. The enemy attack missed them entirely. "Where did you see that?" Jack asked once they were safe. "I sense patterns, Jack," she replied in his mind. "I see paths, movements, and choices. I can guide you, but only if you trust me." Jack nodded. "I trust you, Lyra. Lead the way." Over the next week, Lyra's abilities became even more apparent. She could analyze enemy movements, repair advanced machinery, and even help humans and aliens strategize in ways no one had thought possible. She was no longer just a child. They began to see her as a prodigy, a force of intelligence and courage. Yet, she never demanded attention. She worked quietly, observing, guiding, and saving lives in ways that left everyone awestruck. During a critical supply run, Jack and Lyra encountered a damaged hover transport with several wounded civilians trapped inside. Enemy patrols were nearby, closing in fast. Jack prepared for combat, but Lyra shook her head. She ran forward, her small hands touching the vehicle's hull. Sparks and light danced around her fingers, and within moments, the doors opened. The engines roared to life, and the transport lifted off safely. Jack stared at her in disbelief. You just did that?" "I did what I was meant to do," she replied. But this is only the beginning. As the survivors regrouped, Jack began to understand something deeper. Lyra's abilities weren't just extraordinary, they were a gift meant for more than survival. She could change the outcome of this war, protect her people, and even teach humans new ways to think and fight. He realized that by saving her, he hadn't just rescued a child, he had unlocked a potential that could shape the future of the entire galaxy. However, not everyone trusted her yet. Some humans were skeptical, frightened of her abilities and unsure how to respond. Jack defended her, insisting that her skills had saved countless lives and that she deserved respect. Lyra didn't ask for praise, but her quiet confidence and silent intelligence gradually won over the doubters. One night, while repairing a communication array with Lyra's guidance, Jack noticed her staring at the sky again. He asked, "What are you thinking about?" "I am planning," she replied. "There are many who would harm us if they knew what I can do. I must prepare for them. But with you, Jack, I am safe. Together we can protect everyone." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll do it together." "I've never had anyone like you at my side, Lyra. I'm glad I found you." The days passed, and the bond between Jack and Lyra deepened. He learned to read her subtle cues, her gestures, and the way she silently directed the group during missions. Her intelligence seemed limitless, yet she still retained the innocence of a child, laughing at small things, enjoying simple food, and playing with makeshift toys made from scraps. Then came the day of the biggest attack yet. Enemy forces descended upon the camp with terrifying speed and coordination. Jack rallied the human and alien defenders, but it quickly became clear that conventional tactics would not be enough. He turned to Lyra. "Show me what you can do," he said, trusting her completely. She closed her eyes, raising her hands, and the energy around her shimmered like liquid light. Systems she had never touched before began to respond. Drones, weapons, even enemy communication lines faltered under her influence. Jack watched in awe as Lyra orchestrated a defense that no human or alien commander could have imagined. The battle was fierce. But when the dust settled, the camp was still standing. Enemy forces had retreated, unable to counter the combined intelligence and skill of Jack and Lyra. The survivors cheered, not fully understanding how a small child had made such a difference. But grateful nonetheless, Jack knelt beside her, exhausted but relieved. "You saved all of us," he said softly. I don't know how to thank you." "You saved me first, Jack," she replied in his mind. "That is enough. Together, we are stronger than anyone thinks." As night fell over the camp, Jack sat with Lyra, staring at the stars. He realized that everything he had believed about strength, courage, and heroism was changing. It wasn't just about human weapons or skill, it was about trust, partnership, and recognizing the extraordinary in the most unexpected places. For Jack, the truth was clear. The little girl he had rescued was not merely a survivor. She was a beacon of hope, a force that could turn the tide of war, and a reminder that humanity's greatest strength was not in machines or weapons, it was in courage, compassion, and the ability to see greatness in others. And he knew that the real journey was only beginning. The sun rose slowly over Carvath, lighting the sky with soft gold. The battlefield from the night before was quiet now. Smoke still curled from burned machines and fallen drones, but the air was calm. In the middle of the ruined camp stood Jack and Lyra. Everyone watched her differently now. No one saw her as just a child anymore. She had saved them all. Humans and aliens whispered her name with respect, even reverence. Some of them believed she was a legend come to life. Others thought she was a gift from the stars. Jack stood beside her, tired but proud. He glanced at her small figure. She was staring at the horizon like she was waiting for something. Jack knelt down beside her. "Lyra," he said softly, "who are you really?" She turned to look at him. Her glowing green-blue eyes were calm. She lifted her hand and touched his arm. "It is time you knew the truth." Her voice echoed gently in his mind. Jack waited silently. She pointed toward the sky. Far above, beyond the clouds, a shape appeared. It was not a ship like any Jack had seen before. It was large, shining like crystal, shaped like a curved wing. It floated silently, graceful like a living creature. The survivors gasped. Some stepped back in fear. Others dropped to their knees in awe. Jack stood still, fixed on the ship. "Is that your people?" he asked quietly. "Not exactly," she replied. "That is my legacy." The ship descended without wind or noise, resting above the ground like a silver feather. A ramp of light extended to the earth. Everyone watched. Lyra took Jack's hand. "Come with me without hesitation." Jack followed. They walked up the glowing ramp. Jack could feel a soft energy under his feet, like walking on warm sand. Inside the ship was full of light. No walls. No wires. Just patterns of glowing symbols floating, like stars around them. Lyra stepped forward. Light gathered around her. Her small, childlike form shimmered, and for a moment, Jack saw her differently. Not as a child, but as something far older, something wise, something powerful. She turned to him. "My people were called the Illyrians," she said. "We were not warriors. We were thinkers, builders, protectors of knowledge. Long ago, war came to our world. We did not fight with weapons. We fought with wisdom. But we could not stop the destruction. Our world fell. I was chosen to carry our legacy." Jack listened quietly. His heart was steady. "So you're a leader?" he asked. "I am the last keeper of Illyrian knowledge," she replied. "My mind holds our history, our technology, our dreams. That is why they are looking for me. Not to save me, but to use me." Jack's fists tightened. "They won't get you," he said firmly. "I'll protect you." She smiled faintly. "You already have." Jack felt warmth in his chest. Lyra continued. "But now, I must protect others. Not just myself." Suddenly, holograms of different planets appeared in the air Carvath. Earth and others Jack didn't recognize. "War spreads through the galaxy," she said, "but it does not need to continue. Humans, you have something special. You fight with courage. You protect not for power, but for kindness. When you saw me, you did not ask who I was. You simply saved me." Jack blinked. He had never thought of it that way. "You were alone," he said simply. "No one should be left alone." She held his hand tighter. "This is why I choose you." Jack's eyes widened. "Choose me for what?" Before she could answer, alarms sounded outside the ship. Jack turned sharply. "Trouble." Lyra nodded. They rushed outside. Enemy forces were approaching again, but this time, it was not just drones. It was an entire army. Armored carriers, flying crafts, marching soldiers in dark uniforms. At their front floated a massive, machine black, triangular, with glowing red symbols. Jack raised his rifle. "Everyone get 2 positions." Humans and aliens scrambled into defensive lines. But this time, they were not afraid. They looked at Lyra like she was their guiding star. Lyra stepped forward. She did not raise her hands. She did not shout. She simply spoke in Jack's mind. "Will you stand with me?" Jack nodded. "Always." "Then let us show them the power of protection, not destruction." She floated into the air, surrounded by a soft blue light. The Illyrian ship glowed behind her, humming like a heartbeat. The enemy army paused, unsure. Then, their leader, a tall, armored alien with a metallic staff, stepped forward. "Give us the Illyrian," he said coldly, "or all of you will fall." Jack stepped forward, rifle ready. "You'll have to go through me," the alien sneered. "A human? You think you can stop us?" Jack smirked. "No, not me. He looked at Lyra. She can. The alien leader laughed. She is only a child. Lyra's voice echoed across the field, not just in minds this time, but aloud. Carried by energy, I am not just a child. Her eyes glowed. Symbols of light spiraled around. I am Eli, Rian. The ground trembled. The Illyrian ship pulsed. Energy spread outward like gentle waves, touching the weapons of the enemy. Army not destroying them, but turning them. Off machines shut down. Drones fell from the sky. Engines froze. The enemy soldiers looked at their disabled weapons in shock. Lyra floated closer, her voice calm. No more war. No more pain. Leave this place. Go home. Choose peace. The alien leader trembled in anger. We do not surrender. Jack stepped beside her. Then you'll lose without even being attacked. The alien looked at the silent battlefield around him. His army was powerless. His machines were dead. He clenched his fists, then slowly dropped his staff. His army backed away. They retreated without another word. Silence filled the field. Then cheers erupted. Humans and aliens shouted with joy. Clapping, crying, embracing each other. Jack turned to find Lyra landing softly on the ground. She looked tired but peaceful. He knelt beside her. You did it, he said softly. You stopped a war without firing a shot. She looked up at him, her small voice whispering in his mind. I could not have done it without you. Jack felt his throat tighten. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. So, what happens now? He asked. She looked toward the sky. Now, we build something new. He raised an eyebrow. A government. A future, she corrected. Not ruled by fear or power, but by understanding. I will share Illyrian knowledge with all who choose peace. And you will be my voice among humans? Jack stared at her. Me. I'm just a soldier. She shook her head. You are more than that. You are proof that kindness is stronger than force. Jack didn't know what to say, but for the first time since the war began, he felt truly hopeful. He stood and lifted her gently in his arms. She rested her head against his chest, peaceful. As they walked back toward the cheering survivors, Jack whispered, Lyra, I didn't realize who you were when I rescued you. She smiled softly. You didn't need to. You just saved me. He nodded slowly. And now, you're going to save all of us. She looked up at him. Not alone. Together, Jack smiled. Together.